greenhouse gases and carbon emissions and the production and use of fossil fuels. From your point of view, as you followed events in Scotland, what was and was not accomplished there?
To be honest, I don't think there was a whole lot in the agreement they reached that's new. Again, the point of these COP meetings every year and the agreements that come out of them is really to implement what countries already agreed to, especially in 2015 with the big Paris climate agreement. And like the overarching goal of that is to keep global warming to less than 2 degrees Celsius and ideally to 1.5 degrees Celsius. Yeah, and in order to do that, most experts agree, we have to cut our greenhouse gas emissions in half by 2030 and cut them completely by 2050. And that's sort of the big goal that these young activists are laser focused on. Yeah, I think as a whole, they were pretty disappointed with the agreement they came out of 26. The agreement only included some very weak language on fossil fuels. They said, we need to phase down our use of coal, not phase it out completely. So that means countries will still continue to use coal, which is the most polluting fossil fuel, for some years to come. Young activists were also calling for compensation for the losses and damages that developing countries have already suffered as a result of climate change. And this agreement that came out of the meeting in Glasgow basically said, we won't talk about it, but it didn't create any sort of requirement for wealthier countries to hand over that money. So I think those were sort of the two biggest things that activists were disappointed by.
Well, Delgar, as we draw to a close of our conversation, I did want to ask you, what's your sense of optimism among the young people you spoke with who were front and center in terms of their activism on climate change in Glasgow, Scotland? Are they optimistic about the future?
Not really, to be honest. And I think, when I was interviewing them, a lot of sort of expressed a sense of frustration and annoyance that older people keep asking them about optimism and about hope, when really they feel like this issue is not being addressed. They don't see a lot of progress. I think the only thing that gives them a little bit of optimism is sort of the community they've been able to find with each other and sort of see just how many young people are getting involved in the climate movement.
But what planet are we going to live on?
Otherwise, optimism is not really the word I would use to describe the mood of the youth climate movement.
That was Stelgar Erdensana, a reporter with Inside Climate News. Find a link to her articles and related analysis and commentary on the climate summit in Glasgow by visiting our Between the Lines website at btlonline.org. In May 2020, as last year's presidential election campaign was getting underway, Louis DeJoy, a Trump campaign megadonor, was appointed as the nation's Postmaster General by the U.S. Postal Service Board of Governors, most of whom had been appointed by Mr. Trump.